What's up, humans, and welcome to Psicoactivo. Happy Friday, everybody. Okay, so I guess it's time to just do a friendly reminder to everybody that Elon Musk and Peter Thiel are not being honest about what they want with UFOs. Over the years, we've seen them and people close to them flat out denying that they're even interested in UFOs. I can go through a couple of videos from Elon just to start the show, so you know what he said over the years about the topic. So he said this on Tucker Carlson.
When you say, what are the aliens? What do you mean?
Where are the aliens? Oh. Like, why don't we see them? A lot of people think we see aliens, but I've not seen any evidence of aliens. We've got 6,000 satellites in orbit, and not once have we had to maneuver around an alien spacecraft.
Right. But on this Earth, the U.S. military has had to do a lot of maneuvering around objects they can't explain.
Well, unidentified flying objects is one thing, but there's always a bunch of classified programs that are underway of new aircraft and new missiles and things. So that are classified even within the military. So it's only if you have the top secret compartmented clearance, would you know about this new program? So then some pilot sees something moving fast and says, "Hey, I saw a UFO." I'm like, "Yeah, that was actually a new weapons program, but we can't tell you that." But you can guarantee that
Tucker is not buying it, man. And I remember this interview, I think it's from last year. And Elon, this is where I started going, he's not telling us something, because if he really thought that this was just classified technology from humans, I don't buy for a second that he's not curious about what technology is this that surpasses or seems to surpass what I'm trying to do on SpaceX, which is chemical propulsion. And if I was him, I'd be pissed if I saw that technology and I don't have access to it. So just remember, he already had access to a bunch of files and information from the government through his Doge initiative. He's no longer there, but I would guess that he already saw and found whatever he wanted to see and find. So keep that in mind.
the split second I see any evidence of aliens, I will immediately post that on the X platform. And it'll probably be our #1 post of all time.
That'll be your biggest day,
yes,
for sure.
So that's one. Here's the other one. I think it's also from last year.
I mean, if I've not seen any evidence of aliens, and SpaceX with the Starlink constellation has roughly 6,000 satellites, and not once have we had to maneuver around a UFO. Okay.
You see, he's using the same talking point. Whenever you see someone who's using similar talking points, that's a prepared statement. Just keep that in mind.
So we were like, hey, what's that? Is that an alien? Has occurred never. So I'm like, okay, I don't see any evidence of aliens. And I look at it. If somebody has evidence of aliens
Note also how he's being very specific. He's saying aliens. Kind of sounds like what Arrow is doing, doesn't it? He's not saying non-human intelligence. He's not saying UFOs. He's saying aliens.
And that's not just a fuzzy blob. Then I'd love to see it, love to hear about it. But I don't think there is. So, which is actually reason for concern, because you could, if any civilization in the Milky Way, in our galaxy, were to last for 1 million years, even with a speed of travel that's far below the speed of light, like a few % of speed of light, they could easily have explored and colonized the whole galaxy. So they haven't. So why not? I think the answer might be, or perhaps probably is, that civilization is precarious and rare, and that you should really think of human civilization as being like a tiny candle in a vast darkness, And we should do everything possible to ensure that that candle does not go out.
Okay, so that's another one. Now let's see from Red Panda Koala, who clipped this from Joe Rogan. And this is what he said.
So what do you think people like Ryan Graves and Commander David Fravor?
I want cool things to exist.
Right.
Like, so like, do I want UFOs to exist? Yes, I want UFOs to exist because that would be really interesting.
Of course, everybody does.
Yeah.
It'll be cool.
It's a more boring world where UFOs don't exist, or like flying, like advanced propulsion stuff doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist, that's more boring. It'd be more interesting if it did exist. I'd like it to exist. I hope we find something, but I have not seen SpaceX launches 90% of all satellite mass to orbit. So if you take all of Earth's rocket launches, my company has a 90% market share of Earth. China does about 5%, and the rest of the world does, including the Boeing, Lockheed, Northrop, and everyone, does 5%. So why wouldn't they use this to defeat SpaceX?
So this was pre-Doge, and I would assume that by now, one of his most important business partners ever, his name is Peter Thiel, probably already knows what's going on, and he probably already told Elon what's going on. And let's just remember one thing that people seem to keep forgetting, and I'm not gonna stop pointing it out because I think it's very important. In the book American Cosmic, Diana Pasolka has a character named Tyler, who, as you guys already know, is Tim Taylor, who is one of the most obscure and mysterious figures in ufology, seems to know everything about UFOs. He took Dr. Gary Nolan and Diana Pasolka to a crash site in New Mexico, so he knows. In a recent interview with Chris Leto on the Leto Files, they went deep into that crash site, and Diana Pasolka said that Tim Taylor had been going to the crash site for at least 40 years, his entire life by that point, almost. So Tim Taylor knows about UFOs very well. And this erased tweet describes what Elon more than likely already knows about UFOs. She said Tyler was and may still be Elon's U.S. Space Force handler. So Elon is clearly concealing something that he knows, because I think it's impossible for him to not have asked about UFOs, at least. If you have one of the most knowledgeable people in the topic handling you, I mean, come on, right? But to me, one of the most shocking moments in recent months, I would say, is when I interviewed Courtney Marchesani last Saturday. She said something that took me by surprise that I was not expecting. She said that she knew from different sources that she has, because she attended the film premiere of Age of Disclosure, the film directed by Dan Farah, where it has a bunch of officials saying that UFOs are real and talking about this alleged arms race between countries for this technology. It has Secretary of State Marco Rubio. It has James Clapper. It has Jim Semivan. It has Hal Puthoff, Dr. Gary Nolan, pretty much anybody you can think of that has been investigating this topic, and many politicians as well, are in that film. And the film hasn't released yet. Just today, there was a false release date on Plex TV, I think. And they tend to do that to gain more subscribers. They just drop fake movie release dates. It's not true. There hasn't been any announcement on when Age of Disclosure is coming out. People are already pretty impatient. And with what Courtney said, I would think that the people who are organizing this movie and who are producing it are way more nervous now, because Courtney did say that. And just yesterday, she doubled down and she said this. I got to show you guys because this is really interesting. This is from Spaced Out Radio. Courtney was a guest with Dave Scott. They had a wonderful show, but I was very interested to hear about this that Dave Scott is about to ask. Shout out to Spaced Out Radio, shout out to Courtney, and shout out to Dave.
All right, let's go on to our next topic, which is billionaire Peter Thiel. Now, every time we hear about this guy, I mean, he allegedly has nothing that he wants to do with ufology, but every now and again, we hear something pop up that he could be spending some of his bajillions of dollars on, and it regards UFOs. It started a few years ago where he funded Enigma Labs to be a research company that had nothing to do with the government, but somehow wiggled their way into a lot of government type of speaking engagements.
So I've been looking into this. I've even seen a presentation that they did in 2021, a slideshow. It has some names that really did surprise me that they were trying to approach. But in one of those slides, one of the sponsors was Palantir, Peter Thiel's company. So there is a connection there. I don't know if he's still involved in it, but at least in 2021, there was a connection there. And there are reports from Courtney and from others that Thiel was approaching UFO personalities to talk to them. This is what Courtney is about to talk about. And she's also going to talk about this film, Age of Disclosure.
Then we hear that, one of his underlings, gentleman by the name of Jesse Michaels, kind of comes out of nowhere and takes over basically the YouTube story of this, becoming a major UFO influencer or UAP influencer online and gathering a bunch of big named UFO intrigued people from YouTube to kind of hop on the saddle with him and ride with him. And then now we're kind of hearing, and you kind of brought this up just recently, and Tim James, our UFO reporter, mentioned this on the show earlier this week, that Peter Thiel may have been a backer financially for the documentary Age of Disclosure. What's going on with Peter Thiel?
Well, I thought everybody knew that. I mean, that was a, thing on my mind that I thought was just accepted along with the production of the Age of Disclosure because it was talked about.
The thing is here is that Courtney did attend the premiere, and she's speaking very matter-of-factly as if the people involved with the movie were already talking about Peter as being one of the financial backers. To be fair, Peter Thiel's circle vehemently denies that he is funding in any way the Age of Disclosure documentary. Everybody's denying it. But it's really strange that at that time and throughout the years when the film was being talked about, according to Courtney, people involved with the film were talking to her as if Thiel was funding at least part of this documentary. And also note, they mentioned Jesse Michaels. That is true. Jesse Michaels had stated many times that he did work with Peter Thiel on his private office, on his home office. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but if you go to his bios on social media, he used to have working for Peter Thiel or working with Peter Thiel on his bio, and now it's no longer there. So he quietly removed from his bio on social media that he was working with Peter Thiel. I don't know what that's about. I don't know what happened there. I have heard rumors that Jesse is only working on his channel now. He's no longer working with Peter Thiel, but it would be cool if we could get a statement from him, especially after what Courtney is talking about here, because they're denying it, but it's really strange that people involved in the movie did say before that Thiel was backing the film financially. So I don't know what's going on there. Courtney has her sources, but it is really strange. Don't you guys think?
By people in that, in that production as, it just common knowledge. So when I dropped that on Psicoactivo, with Pavel, I didn't think that there was going to be this huge the backlash, or even that people didn't know, or that there would be a categorical denial by Thiel that he funded it. So it's opened it up like a beehive of what's the story here, and why wouldn't this be acknowledged if he funded it? And so there's a whole history around why people would be upset if he did. But let's just go back to the other part that you mentioned, that he funded Enigma. Okay. Now, when that came out and Enigma was established, I thought he did fund it. But everybody is now saying, no, he's never been involved with UFOs, and it's not his thing. And Jesse Michaels offered him to come in on a project, I think it was maybe with Hal Puthoff, and he said, no, he wasn't interested. Or maybe it was with Greer. No, he's not interested in that. And so the party line, from that group is that, no, he's not involved with anything, doesn't want to be involved with anything. So answer the first question. Did he fund Enigma?
I heard that he had funded between $5 and $8 million.
Okay.
Enigma.
So we've got an amount. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I talked with a distributor in LA through a friend of mine, and she said that he doesn't have to report it. Dan Farah doesn't have to report if he got funding from Thiel or his funders. They don't really care about that on the line items for the movie. They just go out and sell it. So right up until I was going to the age of disclosure, I got notes that were like, look for Peter Thiel on the credits, or whatever. And I was waiting, actually.
Isn't that strange though? If he wasn't part of it, why was she thinking that? And according to the people she claims to have been talking to who were part of the movie, they were convinced, and they were saying that he did partly fund this. So what the hell's going on there?
For the credits to see if there was a thanks, to him. And I got distracted because all these people were talking about UFOs in my ear. So I eventually, looked away, and I didn't see the end of the credits. I didn't see it when I was there in the theater, and I stayed and watched, most of it. It was only the very last couple minutes that I took my attention away. So obviously, if he funded it, but he didn't want to have to let people know, and he wanted to be a private donation or something, then that's his choice. He doesn't have to declare it, or the movie doesn't have to disclose it in any kind of financial bottom line process going into distribution. So, that's just going to remain a question mark, I think. But
do you think he did?
Do I think he did? Yeah, I still
Yes.
think he did. Yes, I still think he did, because in talks in 2024, people were telling me that he did. And that was a part of the big excitement around it, and that Dan Farah was looking for a theatrical release, and that Dan Farah also had connection to Spielberg, and so it was going to be this high profile, well-funded project. That's kind of how it was explained to me. It had gone through the SSIC, the Intelligence Committee, for approval for all the whistleblowers' testimonies or the witnesses to be in there. So the fact that there's been a categorical denial now, and the movie's been held up, people do have questions like, why is this movie putting the brakes on disclosure? No, I don't think the movie's putting the brakes on disclosure, but I think it really would have helped disclosure along the way. And the fact that it's being delayed, it's not newsworthy anymore. It's not like, the hot stuff and breaking news. So the longer the delay, the more stale it gets.
Okay, so that's enough of that. I'm going to leave a link in the description for the full episode. It was really good. They talked about a bunch of stuff that is really interesting. Shout out to both of them. Shout out to the entire Spaced Out Radio crew. But I think that people are starting to realize why this may be the case. Why, if this is true, if Peter did participate in the funding of Age of Disclosure, and he's denying it, and everybody involved in the movie is denying it now when some of them weren't back then. I think it has to do with Peter's latest exploits with Palantir, with the Bilderberg group, and his overall views that seem to be from a religious fundamentalist sort of. he's doing speaking arrangements talking about the Antichrist. And whenever that kind of conversation gets into the zeitgeist from someone with such power, people get freaked out. It's inevitable. And it is really strange that both him and Elon are so adamant to deny UFOs. They are. I've heard Jesse say a bunch of times that he's not interested at all, that he tried to pitch something to him at least once, and he was just not interested. It's really strange now that this information is coming out. So some clarity about the whole thing would be nice, but if you would bear with me a little bit and a bit of speculation, I've done a couple of videos about tech bros, and if this technology that could or could not be reverse engineered from something does exist, and these legacy aerospace companies do have this technology, if I'm one of the most powerful people in the world now, like Peter or like Elon, and I have a company like Palantir or like SpaceX that deal with Palantir deals with information, with spying essentially on people. There's also Palmer Luckey with Anduril, who does deal with weaponry and drones and all this technology. If I was those guys and I find out that I've been lied to for a while about some secret anti-gravity technology or whatever, I'd be not just pissed off, I would be like planning how to get this technology for my companies, because Elon has been convinced that he has the best and most impressive propulsion technology in the world. And there's a lot of smoke that points otherwise. It may not be the case, Elon. I don't know if you guys remember, but that tweet from Matthew Brown calling out Elon, that already mentioned a few companies that may have this technology. And I think that Matthew Brown already knows that Elon probably knows about UFOs, but he was just taunting him at this point. I do worry though, because there's a lot of people that do accept this, that say tech bros want this tech. That's good. I don't care as long as they bring us disclosure and they say aliens are real. I don't think that's very smart to say or even think, because if there's evidence of something over the last 20 to 30 years, is that these tech companies have taken over pretty much the entire world. They control your information, they control your data, they can do pretty much anything they want to you. Just think, what do you depend on the most? Technology. We are a technologed world, and these guys have the control of it. So just be careful on who you want as your disclosure advocate. If you think that by giving this to these tech moguls like Elon or Peter, you got to look also at their potential and possible motives behind what they're trying to do. And you got to also look at how conspicuous they're being about it. If you guys haven't noticed, since Elon took over Twitter and he renamed it X, they rolled out this community notes feature that whenever you see something that could potentially be either false information or personification or engagement farming or whatever, you slap a community note on it and it appears. And people know that this is not reliable information or not the source. I don't know if you noticed, but when those came out, pretty much no information about UFOs was being community noted. I don't know if you noticed that. Now, some of it is. Some accounts have already been knocked down. But at the beginning, for at least a full year, Elon allowed for all the information about UFOs to roam free on X. That's not a coincidence either. So just keep that in mind. We have to look into this claim from Courtney Marchesani a little further. But Peter Thiel does seem to have a connection to Enigma. He does seem to have a connection to Age of Disclosure, although they've denied it vehemently. And Elon does have a connection to Tim Taylor. And Tim Taylor is one of the most knowledgeable people in UFOs. So right now, as things stand, it kind of seems like both of them are lying about UFOs, or at least not telling the full truth about what they know and what they want. So it'd be nice to get a little clarity from both of them. And also, it'd be nice to get a statement from Jesse Michaels about it, because there's just a lot of smoke. And I know that he's probably compromised in terms of he was friends or is friends with Peter, but it's not a good look. I just had to report on this because of what Courtney is reporting. You guys can go to Courtney. I'll leave a link in the description to her socials and where she stays the most active, which is on X. You can ask her yourselves, but it's not a good look. And they seem to be withholding some information. So let's ask. Yeah. If you guys have a chance, ask them. Let me know what you think in the comments about this. This was like a long time coming. I was thinking about how to do this because usually these types of videos about Elon don't do very well, which is already suspicious. But when this information came out about Peter, I thought it was time to talk about it because it is important and it is alarming. I don't know if you agree. Let me know in the comments. If you like the content you see, I'm going to ask you to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That's all you need to do in order to help us, and it is what helps us the most, so thank you. But if you want to support us in other ways, there's a few links down there you can choose from. You can become a member on YouTube, or you can support us through KGRA. Anything you choose to do is always appreciated, so thank you. That's it for me today on this video, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, stay curious and inquisitive, like Courtney Marchesani and Dave Scott. Always. Bye.